Here is a list of absolutely sensational new African winemakers that you have to try. In 2024, Winemag held their very first inaugural Next Gen Winemaker of the Year competition sponsored by FedEx. And they awarded a group of winemakers the title of the Next Gen Top 10. Now, having watched this group of youngsters for some time, I've set aside a group of just 3 that I think are particularly exciting, which you need to track down. First up, we have Viticulture from Vergenoegd in Stellenbosch. Now, it was his Cabernet Sauvignon 2022 which won him his award, but you have to get hold of his Merlot and also the Vergenoegd Malbec. Next up, we have the Visser sisters from Cape Point Vineyards in Noordhoek. Now, Riandri Visser has been on the scene for some time, so she's no stranger to awards and award ceremonies. But what you might not know is that her sister Anzette now works alongside her in the cellar. The wine that won them the award is the Cape Point Islay 2022, which is a Sauvignon Semillon blend. Finally, there is Henry Ferreira from Kleine Zalze Estate. Henry is the genius behind the wines of Kleine Zalze's Project Z experimental range. She's also the only winemaker in this entire list to have 2 wines listed in the Next Gen Top 10 group. The 2 wines that won Henry her spot in the Next Gen Top 10 were the Kleine Zalze Project Z Chenin Blanc 2022 and the Project Z Alvarinho 2022. But why are we even talking about Next Gen winemakers? Well, because today's hand drink solo wine of the day is the Alinea Sauvignon Blanc, made by the award-winning winemaker Natasha Jacker, who happens to be the undisputed highest scoring winemaker in the entire Winemag Next Gen competition, which also makes her the very first Next Gen winemaker of the year in South Africa. It was the Alinea Sauvignon Blanc from the desolate wine ward of St Helena Bay that won her the prestigious award. St Helena Bay was for a long time considered part of the Swartland wine region. But it was the Gedeelte Wines founder, Wimpie Bouwer, who said, in essence,
"This is madness!"
And his point was, the Gedeelte Wines vineyards lie just 3 kilometers from the Atlantic Ocean. His vines are planted directly into this crazy beach sand, and so it just felt wrong to call that part of the Swartland. I guess in the same way, it was wrong to call the coastal vineyards of Darling part of the Swartland, and that was in turn why Darling also got its own wine of origin designation. So Wimpie Bouwer pushed for a little bit, and eventually the Wine and Spirits Board relented and gave St Helena its very own designation. The St Helena Bay Wine Ward is up on the northern end of the Swartland, and when it isn't producing award-winning Sauvignon Blancs, it is also the historical point at which Portuguese explorer Vasco da Gama first landed in South Africa. As mentioned, the ward really is a remarkably desolate place, and currently there are only 2 registered grape growers, Jasper Smith and Wimpie Bouwer from Gedeelte Wines. And the soils in this ward are, as I said, extremely poor. I mean, like, destitute. I'm talking Charlie Bucket, Oliver Twist, Sophia the First type destitute. So really anything good that comes out of these soils is, by definition, a rags to riches tale. Which means that Natasha Jacker's Sauvignon Blanc, which uses fruit from Gedeelte Wines, is akin to The Greatest Showman, except in a bottle. Now, a very desperate marketing person once told me that a wine can never be greater than the story that it tells. And while I have no idea what that actually means, what I do know is that you have to drink the wine in order to figure out if that's true. When we get into the glass and give it a sniff, well, I mean, you can't tell it's a Sauvignon, but there's definitely a lot more mystique to it than perhaps Sauvignon Blanc haters would care to admit. Instead of being this burst of obvious tropical notes, rather it's a gentle opening of peach fruit and maybe some nectarine, and then it's taken over by more savory, salty flint and gravel notes. But then there are tropical elements, and if you let the glass warm up a little bit, you'll notice a hint of sort of dried guava fruit roll. And really, that's what I suggest you do. Let the wine sit in the glass for a little bit and watch how it changes, because really that's what all great wines should do. Now, Natasha only uses native yeasts, so there's nothing explicit or overt that she's tried to achieve by using a more deliberate yeast strain like Vin 7 or Vin 13, where they actively boost those thiols that help to deliver obvious tropical notes. But what she has done is mature the wine in older oak barrels, which allows a little bit of oxidation to set in. And what oxidative elements can do in a wine is often just soften the edges, soften those sharp angles of the often very clear-cut, tropical, sharp elements that Sauvignon Blanc can deliver. Now, when we finally give it a sip, well, as the nose suggested, we do get a lovely opening of gentle peach and apricot. And the acidity appears quite gentle, but it is not. It is just slow attack acidity. So just as those sweeter stone fruit elements are beginning to lull you into a false sense of security, you feel this steady rise towards a crescendo of what is some really quite intense, delightfully elegant citrus acidity. And all of a sudden you're like, whoa, I was feeling safe, and now I'm standing on tiptoes, and along with the acidity towards the finish, there's this super intense, almost spicy, pithy kind of citrus essential oils type element on the tail. It's really a very engaging Sauvignon Blanc. And speaking of engaging Sauvignon Blancs, what I've done is leave 2 links alongside, which will take you to videos that really cover some of our more premium Sauvignon Blancs and some of our more exciting Sauvignon Blanc winemakers. These will both give you a much better idea, not only of what our winemakers are up to in the South African winelands, but also of what some of our better Sauvignon Blancs really are capable of.